Well, howdy guys. Here's another little quick thing here. VW Darren, his air compressor blew up. Actually, his line just blew off. And he made a comment about he was going to put the condenser in. And I know I put a video up and he did reference that. I figured I'd better make a new one because that first video I made was kind of hokey. And I didn't really explain myself really good on that one. But all I did is just a basic AC condenser. You can get them pretty much anywhere. This one here, like I said, I believe it's like out of a car or truck, early to mid 80s GM, but doesn't matter. I just use compression fittings to put it all together. The copper tubing here, this is for vibration. That's the only reason why I put the curly Q's in there, because this thing does vibrate a lot. So that's the only reason why that's in here. If you want to get fancy, you can get the metal braided hose, like on semis. That might be a better way. Whichever works for you. The drain, or the exit out of the condenser, goes into this fitting. I have a check valve here, so when the system purges off when it's done compressing, and it drains the cylinder head so it can start up later, it'll drain from here, it'll drain the condenser out all the way up to the cylinder head, and it'll drain the cylinder head down through your valve, your switch. You can put the check valve closer, it's up to you guys. I just did it down here because it worked out better for me. The tank, that's my water drain tank, so all the condensation from the condenser, as it's cooling, the water drops down off the air, goes in the tank. I can drain that off, and then it goes into the main tank, into the same hole that originally it would have went into, and that's it. What I'll do is I'll fire it up. It is cold, and then I'll let it run. It's at 100 psi. I think this thing cuts off at like 140, 150, if I remember correctly. And we'll do a temp test and explain it a little better. Alright, so it's just compressed up to about 150. Actually it cut off at like 145, it looks like on my gauge. Ran for about 2 minutes. The hissing is a little bit longer than normal, only because I put the second check valve here. So now the air, when it goes to decompress, it has to drain all the air out of the condenser to the head, drain the head out. Normally the system only drains from here to the tank, and the check valve in the tank is right there. So it just got done running. Let's see here. Now you guys can see that, but the head is 200 degrees, and that copper tubing, if I can get it on there with the laser pointer, come on, it's about 200 degrees. You come over to this side of the condenser, you know, it's 100 and some degrees, 120, 130. I mean, it's definitely hot. You come down here, this is the exit. It's 62 degrees. It goes into this tank. Tank is 60 degrees. Comes out here, 60 degrees, and it goes back into the tank right where it originally would be, and it's 60 degrees. The compressor, it's 100 degrees, and for the most part it'll stay at about 150 at the hottest, where before I'd be running this for like, you know, half hour, 45 minutes. You couldn't touch the compressor at all. You couldn't touch the motor. I mean, the motor is ice cold. I mean, this goofy thing used to get so frickin' hot. The tank would get hot. Right now you can run this thing for, like I said, an hour. You can put your hand in this tank and it will not, I mean, it's just warm at best. So all the heat that this thing generates goes right out this tube, through the squiggly lines, and I just did that for vibration. You don't have to put squiggly lines in there. Into the condenser. I don't have a fan on this condenser. It's never been an issue. But if you want it to cool better, obviously you put a box fan over here and you can blow air to it gently. But it never, I mean, I can run this, like I said, for an hour straight, and the bottom here will just barely be warm. You can't touch the top. It's, you know, 300 degrees, 200 degrees. I mean, it's just hot. I put this tank in. There's baffles in this tank. I cut this tank in half, and then the way this works is obviously the air comes in. There's a check valve, and then that check valve is only because when it decompresses, like I said before, it only is going to decompress up to here. So right now this tank is at 140 some psi along with the main tank. The baffles in it just help knock the water out. That's the only reason why I did that. You probably could just use a regular tank. You probably don't even need the tank. You can use the big tank to drain the water out. I just did this so the water was going in here. You can use your filter system or whatever you want to use. So the air comes in. There's a baffle in here. It kind of deflects it and makes it bounce around. For the most part, the air is going to come pretty much down to the bottom. The water should be falling out, and the air is going to come back up to the top and leave here, and then it goes back in the tank. I left the original check valve in this tank just because it was easier to hook up to, or if this were to blow off on me, you know, it's not blowing all the air off. So that check valve is in there also. Don't probably need it, but I just left it in there. You could probably put the check valve, you know, because it's going to decompress the head. If you didn't want to hear it hissing for so long, you could put the check valve right here. It's kind of hot, but you could probably put it about a foot away from the head or in this area. So then when it does shut off and it decompresses the head, it's only going to be about the same amount as what this thing was when it was new. If you don't mind the hissing and a little bit longer, I mean, all it's doing is draining the condenser out of air. That's all that extra hissing is. In terms of the water drain, I don't know if it's going to show up. It's going to darken there, but about 99% of the water ends up in that tank. There will be a little bit of water in the main tank, very little at best, and that's it. I mean, I don't spray paint. I don't have any filters or anything like that on this system, but I've never had water come out of my guns or my blowgun or anything like that. And you know, I'll use this thing pretty hard. Actually, I was just sandblasting with it a couple weeks ago on the 39 project, and I bet you it ran for a good hour. You know, sandblasting takes 6 tons of air, and I walked in here, you know, and tank was muke warm. The compressor bottom was just muke warm. The head obviously is going to be hot because it's going to get hot. The motor was cool. Everything was good. I never had water come through the system while sandblasting. I mean, if you're going to have a problem, that's when it's going to happen. So that's my system. It's just crap laying around. I think the AC condenser came off of like a full-size Chevy car or Chevy pickup. Relatively easy to find. If you have a high volume air compressor, I mean, this one's not a very high volume. What is this? It's 12.3 cubic feet per minute at 40 psi, so it isn't like it's a monster by any means. But if you have a bigger one, obviously the AC unit's going to be a restriction because it's not that big of a line. For a buddy of mine, I made a tandem system, and we got 2 of them. So the line comes into a T, goes into 2 condensers, and it tees back off in the bottom and into the, I think it's like a 1-inch hose, and it goes back in the tank. Haven't had any issues with that. He loves it. I've made these systems for a lot of other people that I know. They all have good luck. So that's it. If you got any questions, just let me know and I'll answer.